Gus, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's been a few years, but you've been on the show before. But I'm so glad that we're getting back together and revisiting everything Axios and all your other brands. But let's touch on some great wine topics along the way, because I know you don't have opinions on anything.
Well, I'll tell you. I listened to one of your recent shows. You had an importer, Mary Taylor, on. She was really upset about the tariffs and how it's affecting her business. And well, it also affects the entire wine business, and it does affect Napa Valley. All the ancillary stuff that we use to make wine, it's all imported.
Mm.
Glass, corks, tin, all these things. So we immediately got surcharges on those things. Now they're saying the tariffs might be coming off. Well, they're supposed to come off. Supreme
We're
Court said
praying.
it's done, but who
Hmm.
the hell knows? And my initial indications are that people may be just kind of shifting their prices up, you know, and there won't be a lot of effect at the on the shelf. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
I also own a distribution company, so we would fight that tooth and nail.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I gave everybody your amazing background and bio leading into the show. But tell me a little bit. I don't even know if I know about this. I know you built your distributorship back in the mid 80s, but how did you get the thought to even go into the wine business? Let's start there and then we'll circle back to the craziness that is
Yeah.
2026.
Well, I've always been very entrepreneurial type. And I'm probably not good working for somebody. So
Same.
of course, you said I was opinionated. That's true. And my dad was a Greek Orthodox priest, and he would get all these gifts from the funeral parlor and the Greek embassy, and it'd always be wine. So I
Mm.
started drinking at a pretty young age, and I just developed this, love for wine, even at 10 years old, if you can imagine. you know,
Right.
um,
Well, most people in Europe that are European do grow up having a little bit of wine at the dinner table, so
yeah.
that's not totally, out of the realm.
I mean, I always introduced it to my kids, and then they didn't care. They weren't ready. They didn't go out and get hammered like I did.
Right.
So, yeah, a little wine I think is good for the soul, of course, for everyone.
Mhm. So you built this amazing distributorship here in Maryland, Constantine, and then one day you decided you wanted to have a winery in Napa Valley. How did that all come together?
Well, we started in 1986. Constantine Wines. We're celebrating our 40th year in business, if you can believe it. Um,
Congrats.
it's a long time, and then prior to 1999, when we started Axios, now 27 years in business. I just caught the bug, really, and I wanted to do it, and I had a lot of different ideas and names, but then I really hunkered down, and I had a lot of support from my suppliers, people like the legendary Robin Lale and the legendary Don Weaver, the executive director of Harlan.
Wow.
They gave me a lot of tips and ideas, and were very happy to see me do it. You don't know if your suppliers want you to actually have a wine in their space.
Right.
But it's been a long ride. It's been wonderful at times. It's been difficult at times. We've seen so many of the ups and downs in the industry. Now I pay a little more attention. Back in the day when I was younger, I didn't look at the news. I didn't pay attention. All I did was work. And so I had my maybe in a good way had my head stuck in the sand.
Mm. Well, you gotta be a little crazy to embark on building a winery because the old saying, and it takes a large fortune to make a small fortune in the wine business because what people don't understand is it is a lot about the pride of what you create and the lifestyle and seeing people enjoy your product, but it's not probably the best use of your investment of your money if you're looking for profitability.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are. I mean, I'm in it as a business, even though wine is my passion. I still have to make money doing it.
Mhm.
A lot of people in Napa, it's you know, I don't want to say it's all ego driven, but a lot of it is, and so they've already made a lot of money and they're buying a lifestyle. And
Mhm.
what's kind of bothered me over the years is the pricing of Napa wine. The average price of Napa Cab is over $400. I mean,
Wow.
Bordeaux doesn't have those numbers, you know?
Right. That is
It's
really
it's
insane.
it's crazy. It's a crazy statistic. And, it's no surprise, that there's a glut of wine. There's a lot of wine out
Mhm.
there. The consumer has a ton of choices. There's a lot of good wine, just as much bad wine, you know?
Right.
And not all of it has a home. My ethos with Axios, worthy, truth, has always been value. So value is the most important thing to me. So even our highest price wine, Axios, is well less than half of the competitive set. So,
Okay.
and then of course we make worthy, we make truth, which we're going to talk about today. And they've always been, great values, over delivering, and that's kind of what I want to do with truth. Now we really nailing it down for the consumer and giving a lot of quality, which something that they would be used to paying 60, $70 for is, you can buy for 19.99 and 29.99. So we
Yeah,
really,
and I
yeah.
think that's perfect for the time because people, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom about people not drinking wine anymore, but there's plenty of people who are still drinking wine, but people are looking for value right now because all of the cost of everything has gone up. And so I do love that. Of course, Axios is your top of the line. And we didn't mention you're in Calistoga, and I did have the pleasure of visiting your winery there. It's a beautiful location. And what you're doing with Truth, I think, is really for the moment because people want great wine for a fair price. And so you sent me three that we're going to taste here right now: a Chardonnay, a Pinot Noir, and a Cabernet. And we'll start with your Chardonnay. And obviously, if you're looking for a special occasion, you definitely want to check out the Axios because I've had the pleasure of having that and it is quite an amazing wine. But Truth is something you could drink every day. And there is some that say, in wine there is truth, right?
Right.
So you're giving that to us. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing first, starting with the Chardonnay, which I know is around $19. Website axioswine.com.
So this is an Alexander Valley Chardonnay. So we wanted to offer like real pedigree in all these wines, and it makes it even more of an exceptional value. So non-interventionalist wine making on these, pretty much. We were able to go in and buy grapes at the end of the vintage where people aren't m- they're just not making as much wine, and they need a place for their grapes to go. I mean, the market's not there for them. So we're able to get advantageous pricing and we pass it on. We make it just like all these wines, we make them just like we do the more expensive wine.
Hmm.
I just think you're getting again like a $60 wine for 19 bucks, you know?
Yeah. And I love that. I know you aged us in oak, but only 25% new, I believe is what I
Correct.
saw on the tech specs, which I really appreciate because you do get the apple, maybe like even grilled lemon, but you get that nice like warmth that there's a little bit of creaminess there, but it's not overly done. And I really appreciate that. I think it's a little more in tune with the modern palate for Chardonnay.
It actually reminds me of wines that I tasted in like the 80s, you know?
Mm,
Uh, just like really balance driven, not trying to make it too fat or too racy. Just a beautifully
hmm.
balanced wine. It's gonna, it just goes with more things.
Absolutely. I could totally like with a fish with a cream sauce or a butter sauce, or even, like a basic grilled chicken dinner. This is something that I would easily put with that. And there's still a lot of Chardonnay lovers out there, although, I guess maybe Sauvignon Blanc and
Sure.
Pinot Grigio are on the rise, but I still have a lot of people that come to me looking for great Chardonnay. What are you seeing since you kind of have a pulse on the market from the distribution side as well?
Yeah, I mean, Chardonnay, we've had brands on the distribution side, very large brands that used to be Merlot and Chardonnay were number 1 and 2, back and forth.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, Merlot's taken a big slide, which is I'm really sad about because Merlot is great, and
Right.
Bordeaux, you drink Merlot, you drink your right bank wines, Saint Emilion, Pomerol, all those things, you're drinking Merlot.
Hmm.
And so what we've done in Napa and other places in California, they blend it into other things because it doesn't sell, you know? And it makes no sense to me really. I mean, it deserves the same kind of hierarchy as Cabernet does.
For sure.
You don't see a lot of wines over $30 that say Merlot on the label anymore.
Yeah. And I know Pomerol is one of your inspirations for your red wines. I saw on your bio that that's something you kind of aspire to that style.
So with our estate vineyard, we make Worthy Reserve. So we thought we'd take the name Worthy, which has done so well for us, and it's been Spectator Top 100, and it's just done very, very well over the years. And again, it represents a lot of value in the lower 40s price wise. It always tastes like more. Our friend Ben Giliberti kind of set it off, if you recall, way back, and he used to be a syndicated wine writer, but he would say, "How do they stuff $100 worth of wine into this bottle?" And so I still use
Yes.
that.
And I recently used that for a corporate tasting I was doing. It was a bar association of attorneys. And we did a blind tasting with like a $20 and the Worthy Reserve, which was 40, the Worthy Cab. And that was the winner, the most popular of all the reds that we tried. So it is an excellent wine. And I love that you have the tiers because you kind of have some price points for everyone. Your Axios is going, what's that going to retail for?
It's about 185.
Okay. And then you have the 40, the $40 range. And then, of course, here with the Truth line that we're tasting today, the first two here are, $19, which is
Yeah,
sort of the sweet spot in my mind. We're going to taste the Pinot Noir here in a second, but uh, I mentioned the doom and gloom of people saying, people aren't drinking wine anymore and this is a crisis. What are your thoughts on that? I know you have delved into the stats and all
very
of
much
that.
so.
What are your thoughts?
I look at everything and read everything, and the statistics aren't very good. I mean, the wine industry is definitely going through a rebuilding stage that I think is going to last a decade.
Wow.
There's just too much of everything, and there's not enough people drinking. It's simple as that. But the younger folks that are coming in to having alcohol, they have so many ways to spend their income on their, social buzz, so to speak. And you have marijuana, you have RTDs that are very popular now, mixed cocktails in a can.
Mhm.
And so they try everything. There's not a lot of brand loyalty, I don't think, at these kind of entry level age. And and the older people, like people my age that have been collecting wine for a long time, they're simply aging out. I have so many wines in my collection, as do most of the kind of Napa people that have been buying Napa.
Mhm.
Um, that you're in your 60s and 70s, you're done. You're done. You're actually trying to give some of your wine away at that point.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I will meet people and they'll, of course, want to tell me about their collection and their cellars, and they'll say, I have so much wine, I couldn't possibly drink it all, and I'm like, that is so sad. That is the saddest thing I've ever heard because you need to have more parties. You need to be sharing
Yeah.
your wine more because that wine is meant to be enjoyed and shared. And so that makes me sad that someone thinks, well, I'll just die and never finish this collection.
Well, that is, their personal choice, but, how it affects the industry is huge. When you're trying to bring people into Napa wine or any category of wine, it's not easy. There's so much competition and so much
Hmm.
not just within the wine industry, but just all these things that are recreational and fun. And so, what I aim to do is to really just bring people in. That's why I'm making wines like Truth.
Hmm.
Bring people in and keep them there. And I want to bring back people that left. And I think we're the right wine at the right time at the right price.
I agree. And I think we bonded way back when we first met over the fact that we both believe that wine should be fun and down to earth and, get rid of the snobbery or the whole intimidation factor that some people, seem to hang
Yeah.
on to. I don't know why. And I think that is a barrier. I know that's changed so much since I've been in the business 20 years now, and for you, even much more so, there isn't as much gatekeeping and attitude, and it's much more a fun for most people, a fun kind of everyday life. But Pinot Noir is the next one here in the truth line.
Well, yeah, to that point, socialization is just, it's not what it was. It's not what it was when I was, 20, 30, 40, 50 even, you know. Um, People don't socialize the way they did. They don't get together. Actually, there's dating statistics now that say, you know, like less than 25% of single people date. They just don't even date. It's too expensive. You know, they speak more over the internet and on, social media than they do face to face. And, we like face to face. I mean,
Yes, I'm all
you know,
about that.
it's, uh, it's all about good times and laughing and hugging and seeing somebody. And,
Right,
I don't know how that's ever going to come back. We're talking about robots entering our universe.
right. I know there's a restaurant in New York City that allows you to bring your AI date with you to dinner. It's insane, but
But
hopefully,
we do have a declining population now, which is first time in history. And
yeah.
I think it's going to really affect all business and all industry. It's going to hurt it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see one of these generations kind of come back around and reject that. So Carneros Pinot Noir is our next wine here, and I was excited to see a California Carneros Pinot Noir at $19. That's kind of unheard of.
I'm pretty sure we're the only ones. Again, we made good deals, but we're also low margin on these. We're not making a ton of money on it, but I was really certain where I wanted to be price wise. The Pinot Noir I'm very excited about because stylistically, it's just a glorious wine. It's kind of a
Mhm.
hypothetical blend of Burgundy and German Pinot Noir. Kind of
Ah,
light on your feet, but still has the richness. But it's just it. I'm gonna watch you drink. It's beautiful, isn't it? I mean,
it is beautiful. It's so bright, and I love all the cherry and red fruit on the nose, but also there's some spice there too that is really and the you take a sip. It is what a Pinot is supposed to be because there are some Pinots on the market that taste like Cabernets,
it's
and
amazing how what
it's
people have
crazy.
come to think Pinot is, and it's not. You're not
Mhm.
supposed to blend anything into Pinot. I mean, not never. I mean, it's like
Right.
grape that you don't throw, Cab or Syrah or whatever people do, which they do.
Mhm.
They just want these kind of over the top, cloying wines. And I think people mistakenly believe that just because a wine is like just monolithic, that somehow it's better. It's not. It's not what it's
Right.
supposed to be. So we like to make, really correct wines and delicious wines and balanced wines.
Absolutely. I love the balance of the fruit and the acidity, and like you said, even though it has that bright acidity there, there is some great texture to it as well. If you love Pinot Noir, that drinks like a Pinot Noir
Uh,
for $19 at a Carneros. That's crazy. I'm excited to have this on my list now. Tell me a little bit more of your thoughts about what's going on now in the wine industry. Any thoughts? I know tariffs bad.
well,
People need to start drinking more wine. What else do you see in the market that might be encouraging maybe?
well, I I I think there's gonna be a rather long period of correction, and I think that the consumer will definitely benefit from that because it's gonna drive prices down.
Mhm.
Unless you're one of the people aforementioned about that we we spoke about, um, that are, in the lifestyle business and, they think their wine should be $500. Why? I don't know. It's because
Mhm.
because they can. But I promise you, most of those wineries, they have wine everywhere that's in a warehouse. I mean, they're not selling it.
Mhm.
I wanna sell wine. I'm here to sell wine and share wine and enjoy, you know,
Right.
what it brings to people. So, I'm not doom and gloom. I mean, I'm still in this. I'm not retiring or anything. I love it, and I love the pivot. I'm happy to pivot, and in my distribution company as well, we've made huge pivots, and I've kind of explained to some of our suppliers why. And once you have that really good dialogue and someone's backs your play, and so we've taken a bunch of wines that were previously like $25, $30 on the shelf and work with our suppliers to make them 19.99. Because, once you get past that, I mean, there's that's the threshold for
It
any
is.
kind of real volume. And so I understand that. And one of the things that benefits me is, I've owned the distributorship for 40 years. I know start to finish how wine is made to how it's sold. And I also see so many anecdotal things that I can share that most winery people don't or can't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everybody kinda knows their piece of the journey, but they don't always know what the next in the three-step, process, what's going on. If you're at the winery, you don't maybe necessarily the challenges of the distributor and the restaurant or wine store versus the distributor, but you've kind of seen it all along the way. I feel like I'm doing a couple of wine tours this year. I'm taking people to Bordeaux in June, and then I'm
Wow.
taking people to Tuscany in October. Yeah, and I got a great response. I was shocked at what a great response I
They
got
really want
to
you. They
yeah,
really
the
want
trips
you. Yeah.
that people want to go, and I think of all these different options you're saying that people have, the ready to drinks, cocktails, the THC infused beer, all these different things. Wine is one of the things that really leads itself to experiences. And I feel like people are craving that. And I mean, what are you going to go to a White Claw, manufacturer? That's not going to be that charming. No offense, White Claw. They're great by the pool. But the whole idea that wine has something I feel like if done right, that you can create a fun experience with comedy. You can go to a winery and see how it's made, have it with food pairings and play with that. I feel like it has a quality that none of those other things have.
Well, yeah, traveling, and introducing food and wine with travel is really
Yes.
hits all the buttons because, people want experiences and they love and, people have shifted to like, I want a new car to, I want to go to Spain or I want to go to Italy, you know, and,
Mhm.
and I think that's for the better. It's better for your soul, you know.
Right.
New car makes you happy, for, a couple weeks, and then it's trade-in value goes in half.
Yes, I know. And there's a lot of talk. I know I don't believe you are doing a tasting room at this time at the winery, but of course, there's lots of wineries in California with tasting rooms, but it's actually gotten pretty expensive. I want to say
Oh,
this starts
really?
at like $75 to do a basic tasting. I mean, you kind of pricing people out. Do you see any of that rolling back? Are people trying to do something different?
Regrettably, I think that was all by design, I really do. I think one way, I don't wanna get into politics, but, I think, everything should have access to everyone, but
Mhm.
stop there. But when I first started in the industry, you could go to these wineries. It was free. The tastings were
Nice.
free. They were
Yep.
just delighted to have you. And
Mhm.
then they started charging a little bit, which I think is good, but they would charge like 10 or 15 bucks or maybe even
Right.
20 bucks, but they would take that off the sale. So it
Mhm.
was fair. I think if you're not going to buy anything and you're just there to drink, well, okay, go ahead and drink and, you know,
Right.
charge you 10 bucks for the privilege. And,
Yes.
maybe they'll come back and be a customer down the road. But, it's definitely, not inclusionary, these escapes that wineries provide, it's for the 1% of 1%, and we're not gonna
Mhm.
get too far if we just keep having that mentality.
Yeah, I agree, and I got to go to Finger Lakes a couple years ago, and I was pleasantly surprised that $15 was the basic, tasting at most of the wineries, unless you were doing, like, a food pairing or something that was, a little more upscale, but it was really nice that you could go in and you could taste, and then, obviously, if you purchased, they were taking that off of yours. But, if you didn't feel motivated to purchase, they were covering their cost and you still got that great experience. So I'd love to see some of these regions have options where it is a little bit more affordable. And it's a whole, depending on where you are, what's the hotel going to be? What are the restaurants? That's all of that is rolled into,
Napa's a
where you're going to
very
go.
expensive, even a weekend is very expensive, thousands of dollars. Uh,
Yeah.
Finger Lakes, not so much so, but I'll tell you, I sell a wine called, Ravines in my
Yes, I got to go there.
it's stunning. I mean,
It
just
really is.
man, I don't care where it's from, it's fantastic. As a matter of fact, I think it's the best Riesling made in America, which is pretty
That is really good. Well, we've talked so much about Napa, and of course, I hear maybe this is changing a little bit, but Cabernet Sauvignon is king in the Napa Valley. I hear Cab Francs nipping at the toes there, but I was super impressed. I did a little preview tasting of this before we got on here of your Truth Cabernet Sauvignon. It is a Napa Valley for $29, I believe, on your site, and wow, this tastes like
yeah.
a $60 cab. I was so impressed. Tell me a little bit about what you did with this one.
Well, again, I kind of saw things coming a little before it started getting reported because, I'm on the ground floor. And with this 23 in particular, we really declassified some of our, more expensive wines. And it's a blend of Coombsville and Stag's Leap, and it's 100% cab. I mean, it really over delivers,
It really does.
it's got a lot of pedigree. We're going to be able to continue it. Now that we're making some different deals with vineyards that will do it. Some people are still like, I want my $12,000 a ton, and we'll do that for the long term vineyards we have with Axios. But the rest of it, it's a negotiation.
Mhm. And how does that work? So basically what's happening is you have some of these wineries that have lots of grapes that they are not going to be able to make into wine because they won't be able to sell it. But their wine might be a $200 wine or a $300 wine. Then they sell some of that the grapes to you. Is there like an NDA that you don't say like,
A
hey, this
lot of
came from
times they
such and
they don't
such?
want you to if the price is a certain price, they don't want you to mention like, these guys don't
Okay.
want me to mention the vineyards, you know, but but, you know, and I don't think that matters so much. I mean, it's just what's in the bottle. Moving forward, I mean, like in 2025, people couldn't sell their grapes, period. I mean, it already started 24. I got some great deals. I bought at the end of harvest. So the grapes were just right. And, we weren't buying something that wasn't perfect. We were buying something that was perfect that they didn't want to turn into wine and have that on their books. And so where, you're buying, grapes for $2,000 a ton that were 8, you know?
Wow.
Literally, I mean, that's anecdotal, that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and my Stag's Leap vineyard moving forward. I mean, really, this Cabernet is pretty much a loss leader, but now I know I can keep repeating it. So I'm very
Mhm.
happy about that. And so that like literally have negotiated in 2025 a lot of deals, like I just said, and it costs $700 an acre to pick a vineyard. I mean, it's not
Wow.
cheap. It's not cheap
Yeah, this has an intensity of the fruit, and then just the tannins are so velvety, it's just really smooth. So it drinks great right now, but definitely could probably lay it down if you wanted for a couple years,
We're
in
talking about
addition. But
balance. We're talking about balance. That's the key.
yes. And, yeah, you could easily blind taste this and think it was a $60 Cabernet. So,
For sure.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. I often ask people on the sipping point here, if you're not drinking your own wine,
Mm.
and I get to see some of what you enjoy because we're friends on social media. But
Well,
what can
now
we
this is
catch?
gonna be embarrassing because, I've been collecting wine for 40 years, more than 40 years, and
Yes,
so
and if you guys are watching this on YouTube or social media, in the background, we see his amazing wine cellar there,
yeah, this is why
or
I
the
keep
white
my
wine
whites,
cellar.
my
You said,
whites.
what can I be catching you drinking if you're not drinking your own wine?
It depends on the craving. I'd really like, Old Barolo, Old Nebbiolo, I think is always just a experience. When you're like I've had my birth year wine several times, like, dozens of times, and
I've
it's
had my own birth year Barolo as well, one time.
well,
Yes,
58 happens to be this, monumental vintage, so I got lucky there.
nice.
While I'm not really purchasing wine any longer, I've got a pretty good war chest downstairs, and I'll open it for anybody. Any friend that comes over, we open. It's nice to present somebody with the birth year wine, and open
Yes,
it
that's
and
awesome.
make a deal around it. But one of the greatest wines I've had recently is Angelus. 2000 Angelus was,
Oh, wow.
I think, my favorite wine of all last year. It's hard to
That's
pick a
great.
favorite. I have a ton of favorites.
Yes, I
Love
know.
GG Riesling, the dry, Grand Cru Rieslings from Germany. I love that kind of stuff. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, no, I love that about you. You do really, I know you like your champagne as well, because I've enjoyed some great champagne with you. But that is great that you try so many different kinds of wines. And I guess in your business, you kind of have to because you guys represent so many different brands from all over the world.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it exciting.
I probably taste 100 wines a month pretty much for business. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm not drinking them, but, uh, I taste about 100 a month.
That's great. What do you think is one wine myth that you would like to dispel that drives you crazy that for some reason people keep believing?
Well, this is the softball you threw me.
Why
It's
not?
price. Just because it's more money doesn't mean it's better. No question. I mean, that is without question. You know, uh,
Okay.
when you're a big corporate dude and you want to make sure everybody knows what you spend, you buy Opus One because everybody knows that and they know it's whatever $500,000, whatever it is, and or you buy Cristal or Dom Perignon, so people recognize that and know they're having a luxury experience. But prices should never be your main objective. Just to pay more because
I agree.
you don't have to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Gus, I really appreciate you, and that myth busting ties in with the whole episode because I appreciate this line of truth wines that you're putting out there for us for, everything's under $30, our first two under 20 and they taste like a lot more. So I feel like that's what people are looking for, wines that over deliver, and I appreciate you bringing those to us and joining me on the sipping point.
Laurie, thanks so much.
Cheers, Gus.
Cheers.